The story begins with a scene that places the reader in the harsh, unforgiving landscape of the desert frontier. A wagon train is slowly making its way across the vast, open land, where every horizon looks the same, and danger always lurks beyond. The dust. Among the settlers traveling westward is a young woman, raised with hope that new land meant new beginnings. Her journey is not merely physical. She carries dreams of building a life away from the crowded east, though she also knows that every step further west brings her deeper into contested territory. The atmosphere is tense. Every night around the campfires, settlers whisper about Apache raids and how wagon trains disappear without a trace. Their words aren't just superstition. The desert belongs to the Apache, and they view settlers as intruders, strangers cutting into sacred hunting grounds and threatening rivers and canyons their people have relied on for generations. For the settlers, the Apache are not only warriors but the very embodiment of the wilderness they are trying to conquer. The ambush comes suddenly. The heat of the afternoon presses down when the young woman's wagon is caught off guard. Arrows whistle through the air. Horses scream. Dust rises so thick that breathing feels like choking. In the chaos, she sees the faces of her fellow travelers flash with terror as they try to rally. Some fall, some flee. But within moments, the fight is over. The settlers are outmatched and outnumbered. When the dust clears, she finds herself surrounded by Apache warriors. They are painted for war, feathers, streaks of red and black across their skin, silent expressions that reveal nothing of mercy. Fear tightens around her chest. She expects to be killed where she stands. Instead, one of the warriors gestures sharply, pulling her forward. Bound and taken, she is thrust into a nightmare she cannot yet understand. Her emotions are complex. She feels the raw grief of seeing her companions fall, the fear of the unknown, and an odd defiance that surprises even her. She thinks of escape, but the sheer presence of her captors makes her freeze. Their language, unfamiliar to her ears, is harsh and rhythmic, a reminder that she has crossed into another world. This opening chapter establishes not only the conflict between settlers and Apache, but also sets the stage for the deeper theme, the collision of two lives that will become entangled in ways neither expects. The ambush is not just an act of war. It is the moment that binds her fate to the Apache warrior who will spare her life. Brought into the Apache camp, the young woman sees life from an entirely different perspective. The Apache are not savages, as the settlers' tales often described. They are organized, disciplined, and deeply connected to their land. Still, the camp is filled with suspicion. Some warriors call for her death, arguing that allowing a settler woman to live is weakness. Others mock her fear, certain she will never return to her people alive. At the center of this storm is a warrior who commands respect. He is not the loudest nor the most aggressive, but his silence and presence carry authority. He steps forward when others debate her fate, his eyes steady and cold. His scars tell a history of battles survived, yet there is also a gravity in his expression that hints at more than violence. He declares that she is his prisoner, and therefore her life is his decision. The woman is struck by the contradiction. He appears ruthless, yet when his gaze meets hers, she sees something else flicker beneath his stoicism. Instead of raising a knife or demanding her blood, he delivers a chilling phrase, "I'll spare you tonight." The weight of those words settles over her more heavily than any threat. He has chosen not to kill her, not out of kindness, but for reasons she cannot yet grasp. The camp reacts with unease. Some mutter that his decision dishonors their fallen kin. Others fall silent, unwilling to challenge him directly. The woman herself is torn between relief and confusion. Why tonight? Why spare her at all? The warrior does not answer her questions. He simply keeps his distance, yet ensures no harm comes to her. When another warrior reaches to strike her, it is he who intervenes with nothing more than a sharp look. Through this silent protector, the woman begins to sense complexity. He is bound to his people and their struggles, yet not entirely consumed by vengeance. His authority does not come from fear, but from something deeper, an earned respect. Though he speaks little, his few words cut sharply into her mind, leaving her restless. This chapter plants the seed of the central relationship. His choice to spare her for reasons not yet clear creates an invisible bond. She is no longer just a prisoner. She has become a symbol of something larger, something that will haunt her long after this moment. The following night, as the fire burns low and the camp settles into uneasy rest, the warrior finally speaks to her in words she understands. His English is halting, heavy with an accent, but deliberate. He explains that sparing her life is not an act of mercy. It is a warning. She is to carry a message back to her people. He tells her that the settlers' encroachment is tearing into Apache lands, rivers, and sacred spaces. Every new wagon train that arrives carves away more of what sustains his people. The Apache cannot allow this theft to continue. If her people persist, the warrior warns, blood will be shed on both sides, and the land itself will weep. His words are not shouted but delivered with solemn finality, as if he carries the burden of truth too heavy for one man alone. Then comes the condition. She will be allowed to live, but she must carry his warning back. His eyes bore into hers, as he says, "My condition will haunt you forever." The meaning is twofold. On the surface, it is a threat, a reminder that if her people ignore the warning, their deaths will be on her conscience. But beneath that, she senses another layer. His words are not just about her duty. They are about him, about the strange and undeniable connection forged in this moment of life and death. The young woman is shaken. She had expected cruelty or mockery, yet his words are filled with a kind of painful honesty. She realizes this warrior is not simply sparing her out of whim. He is forcing her into a role she never asked for, a messenger between worlds. This moment transforms her. She feels both fear and something else she cannot yet name, a respect for his courage, even as she struggles with her loyalty to her own people. His condition becomes a chain around her spirit. She knows that no matter how far she goes, she will not be free of it. This outline cements the central conflict of the story. She is torn between two worlds, two truths, and the haunting weight of a promise she never wanted to carry. Life inside the Apache camp is not what the young woman expected. Instead of being treated as an object of humiliation or cruelty, she finds herself watched closely, yet strangely protected. The warrior who spared her does not speak much to her, but his actions say enough. When food is shared, he ensures she is given a portion. When she is led to the river under guard, it is always with him nearby, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon as though danger could come from anywhere, even from within his own people. This silent guardianship confuses her. At first, she imagines he is simply ensuring that his prisoner does not escape, but soon she begins to notice the subtle ways he shields her. When another warrior sneers at her and reaches as if to strike, the silent warrior steps in, placing a hand on his comrade's chest with a firm shake of his head. The tension in the camp eases, but the young woman feels it deeply. Without him, she might not last the night. Over time, she begins to see the Apache not only as her captors but as human beings living within their own customs and hardships. She observes the women grinding corn, children playing near the fire, elders speaking with quiet authority. This is a community bound together by survival. Yet beneath the daily rhythm lies an undercurrent of loss. Stories of family members killed, of sacred land taken, of broken promises by soldiers and settlers alike. The silent warrior, too, carries this grief. One evening, she overhears him speaking softly to another man in Apache, his voice low, his tone heavy. Though she cannot understand the words, she recognizes the sorrow. Later, she notices a small pendant he wears, a feather carved from bone. When she dares to ask about it in her halting voice, he is silent for a long time. Then he answers with only a few words. She is gone. The look in his eyes tells her all she needs to know. He once loved, and he once lost. The bond between them grows not through words but through presence. She begins to feel a strange safety in his shadow, even though he remains distant. At night, by the fire, she finds herself glancing toward him, and more often than not, she finds him watching her in return. The stares are not warm, not yet, but neither are they cold. They are searching. This uneasy bond sets the foundation for what will follow. The young woman realizes she cannot see him merely as an enemy anymore. He is complicated. Both her captor and her protector. Both the cause of her captivity and the reason she is still alive. It is in this paradox that the first fragile threads of something deeper begin to form. As the days pass, the question of escape haunts the young woman. Her survival depends on obedience, but every time she looks to the horizon, her heart aches to run. She dreams of returning to her people, of finding familiar faces, of reclaiming the life that was stolen from her. Yet she knows the desert is unforgiving. To flee without guidance is to invite death by thirst, wild animals, or pursuit. One night she stumbles upon a moment that shakes her resolve. The silent warrior approaches her while the camp sleeps, his figure tall against the moonlight. For the first time he speaks to her without the weight of command. In a voice low and grave, he tells her she may try to leave. He will not stop her. He even gestures toward the path beyond the canyon that leads back to her people. The offer shocks her. Freedom is within reach, yet her body hesitates. Why would he grant her this chance? Is it a trap? Or does he mean to test her spirit? She studies his expression, searching for cruelty, but instead finds something unreadable, a mixture of sorrow and resignation. Her mind races. She could run now, vanish into the night and never look back. But then his words echo again in her heart. My condition will haunt you forever. The weight of that promise binds her feet to the ground. In that moment, she realizes her captivity is no longer only about ropes or guards. It is about the invisible tether between herself and the man who spared her. Instead of fleeing, she whispers, "Why me?" But the warrior offers no answer. He simply turns and walks back into the shadows, leaving her trembling with a mixture of fear and longing she cannot explain. The next morning she remains in the camp. Some part of her knows she had the chance to escape, but she did not take it. That choice, unspoken and unresolved, deepens the unsteady bond between them. It is no longer just about survival. It has become a test of trust, a dance between captivity and surrender. The young woman is eventually returned to her people under circumstances that leave her shaken. Perhaps the Apache camp decides her ransom is not worth keeping, or perhaps the warrior himself arranges for her release. Either way, she finds herself back among settlers, her body free but her spirit burdened. Her community greets her with relief and suspicion. Some whisper that she must have betrayed them, that no Apache would spare a captive unless there was a hidden reason. Others celebrate her return as a miracle, but within her, she carries a truth she cannot share. The memory of the silent warrior's eyes, his words echoing like a curse. My condition will haunt you forever. At night she dreams of the desert. She dreams of the firelight glinting against his scars, of the sorrow in his voice, of the path he showed her but she could not take. Even in the safety of her people, she feels his presence lingering in her heart. He has become the ghost that follows her, not as an enemy but as something much more complicated. Her daily life resumes. Chores, prayers, planning for the next move westward, but the world feels different now. She no longer sees her people as blameless settlers carving out a home. She sees them as participants in a larger struggle, one that steals from others to survive. Every tree felled, every river diverted, every stone claimed feels like part of the warning he gave her. When settlers begin to discuss building new fences and digging deeper wells, she feels panic rising. She remembers his warning, that if the land was taken, blood would follow. She is caught between loyalty to her people and the haunting voice of the man who spared her. This stage of the story shows how his words have truly become her prison. Though she is free in body, her heart is bound. The haunting is not just of memory but of conscience. She cannot forget, and she cannot forgive herself for being torn. As months pass, the fragile peace between settlers and Apache begins to unravel. Reports of raids spread. Cattle vanish. A wagon train nearby is found burned, its people gone. Fear turns to anger, and anger turns to plans for retaliation. The Men of her settlement gather in secret meetings, speaking of rifles, ambushes, and revenge. The young woman listens in silence, her chest heavy with dread. Every word they speak drives her deeper into turmoil. She knows the Apache warrior who spared her will be among those hunted. She knows he warned her this would happen. Now the prophecy is unfolding before her eyes. Her heart feels split in two. On one side, loyalty to her people, her family, her blood. On the other side, loyalty to the man who spared her life, whose haunting words have rooted inside her soul. She fears for both sides. Her people who underestimate the Apache's skill and the Apache who will face relentless attack. At night, she remembers the path he showed her, the chance to escape she refused. She recalls the sorrow in his eyes, the stories carved into his scars. And she realizes something she cannot deny any longer. She does not see him as an enemy. She sees him as a man whose fate is bound to hers. When the settlers prepare their rifles and plan to march at dawn, she makes her choice. She cannot remain silent. She cannot allow him to be hunted without warning. Driven by a mix of fear, duty, and an emotion she is only beginning to recognize as love, she resolves to return to the Apache camp. The crossroads has come. She must choose between betraying her people or betraying the man whose condition already haunts her. Either way, her decision will set in motion events that will forever change both her life and the fate of those around her. When dawn breaks, the young woman slips away from her settlement, her heart pounding with both fear and determination. She knows her people will brand her a traitor if they discover her absence. But the thought of the Apache warrior facing death without warning drives her forward. The desert stretches endlessly, the sun scorching her skin and the dry wind pulling at her strength, but she presses on. The journey is grueling. She retraces the path she once traveled as a captive, remembering landmarks, the jagged cliff, the twisted mesquite tree, the bend in the river. Every step feels both familiar and foreign, as if she walks in two worlds at once. In one world, she is the settler's daughter, bound by duty and faith. In the other, she is a messenger between two peoples, burdened by the haunting condition placed upon her. At last, she finds the Apache camp nestled in a canyon. The reaction to her arrival is immediate: shock, suspicion, anger. Warriors surround her, their weapons raised, voices sharp. Many demand her death, calling her a spy or a lure sent by her people. But then, from the crowd, he emerges, the silent warrior who spared her before. Their eyes meet across the circle of fire. For a moment, the noise fades. She sees recognition in his gaze, mixed with surprise and something softer that he quickly masks. He steps forward, placing himself between her and the angry warriors. His presence alone silences them. When they speak privately, their reunion is charged with unspoken emotion. She tells him why she has returned, that her people are preparing. An attack that he and his kin must be ready. His expression hardens, but there is no mockery in his eyes. He believes her, yet he also questions her motives. Why warn us? You are not one of us. She struggles to answer. Words like loyalty, gratitude, and duty fall short. The truth burns within her. She returned not only to deliver a warning, but because she could not stay away. The haunting of his condition has become unbearable, pulling her back to him like the desert wind pulls sand across the dunes. This chapter deepens the connection between them. Their reunion is not tender, but intense, a clash of suspicion and longing, anger, and relief. It becomes clear that though their worlds are divided, they are bound together by forces neither can fully resist. In the days that follow her return, the woman remains among the Apache, tolerated only because of the warrior's protection. Most distrust her. Some despise her. But his word is law. When others question her presence, he answers with simple authority. She stays. Their interactions become more frequent. At first they are guarded, speaking only in fragments, but slowly, something fragile emerges. He begins to teach her words in Apache, names of the stars, the river, the wind. She stumbles over the sounds, and for the first time she sees the faintest smile tug at his lips. She, in turn, shares her knowledge of English, laughing softly when he mispronounces a word. These small exchanges, simple as they are, begin to weave a thread of intimacy between them. They steal moments away from the eyes of the camp. By the river they speak more freely. In the hush of night, they whisper fears neither can admit to others. He tells her of his lost family, of the promises broken by settlers who swore peace then brought soldiers. She listens with tears in her eyes, realizing the depth of his wounds. She tells him of her own people's struggles, the hunger, the endless pushing westward, the way dreams of freedom often turn into chains of hardship. One evening, under the canopy of stars, their bond finally crosses the invisible line they have both resisted. They do not speak of love, but their touch says everything words cannot. It is not a fairy tale romance, but a desperate, fleeting connection born in the shadows of war. Both know it cannot last. Both know their worlds will soon collide in bloodshed. Yet in that stolen time they allow themselves to be simply man and woman, not prisoner and captor, not settler and Apache. This chapter highlights the tragedy of their relationship. Their love is real, but it exists only in the margins, between battles, between loyalties, between dawn and dusk. It is as fragile as smoke, and both know the wind of conflict will scatter it. Inevitably, the storm breaks. The settlers march on the Apache camp, rifles in hand, fueled by fear and vengeance. The woman sees them before the attack begins, their silhouettes cresting the ridge, their shouts echoing across the canyon. Panic sweeps through the Apache camp as warriors grab their weapons, children are rushed to safety, and the clash begins. Caught in the middle, the woman faces the choice she has dreaded. If she sides with her people, the man she loves will die. If she stands with the Apache, she betrays her blood, her family, everything she has ever known. When the gunfire erupts, she throws herself into the fray, not to fight, but to shield him. She shouts warnings, pulls him out of the line of fire, and in one desperate moment, saves his life. He looks at her with shock and fierce gratitude, but also with the heavy understanding that her choice has condemned her. The battle rages. Though the Apache fight with skill and ferocity, the settlers' numbers and weapons turn the tide. The warrior orders her to leave, to run back to her people before it is too late. She refuses, clinging to him as chaos engulfs them. But finally, he pushes her away, his command firm, his eyes blazing with both love and sorrow. Go. Live. She stumbles back, torn apart by grief, watching as he disappears into the smoke and gunfire. She does not know if he survives. She only knows that her heart has been broken, and that his condition has indeed come true. Though spared, she will never be free of him. In the years that follow, she carries his memory like a wound that never heals. She marries perhaps, or perhaps remains alone, but no matter where life takes her, she cannot escape the haunting. That face, his words, his touch, they linger in every shadow, in every whisper of the desert wind. The story closes on the haunting truth. Some loves are not meant to last, yet they mark the soul forever. His promise was not a threat, but a prophecy. She was spared, but his condition, his memory, his love, his warning will haunt her until her final breath.